Yeah, but on to our classic review of the week.
Yes. This week we have The Shootist, starring John Wayne and Opie.
Yes. Uh,
Daniel, tell your story.
okay. Yes. I'll tell my story. So, uh, my father went to high school in the L.A. area at the same time that Ron Howard was also going to high school in the same area at the same time. And uh, my dad was on his high school basketball team. Ron Howard was on his high school basketball team, and my dad's high school was hosting like a basketball tournament. That were kind of like on it was a neutral site between Ron Howard's school and then whoever they were playing. And my dad was working the game as a volunteer, and he went into the men's locker room, uh, and Ron Howard was in there changing, and my dad just kind of left him alone, didn't really say anything to him. But the guys from my dad's basketball team were all in there looking at him like, it's Opie, and Ron
Because this would have been
Howard's.
before he was on Happy Days, right?
Yes, it was before Happy Days, yeah. And Ron Howard tells him, "Hey, you guys can talk to me, just don't call me Opie."
Uh, and Ninja asks because the trend with our classic movies is it's movies that are on my mind because of a meme or something. Uh, there actually isn't a meme per se, so much as there's an interesting story behind this movie.
Yeah.
It's very much a case of I believe this was an original screenplay that rather than being based on a book, though I could be mistaken there.
I think it was based on a book.
Okay, then it might be the most on the nose casting ever because at the it's a movie that's been in my head for a long time just because I saw a clip of it on it was like a History Channel show about nuclear testing that mentioned that John Wayne got cancer filming the movie Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
That where they were filming. Oh, first off, casting him as Genghis Khan was another example of why race bending in casting is often a bad idea.
Yes.
Because by all accounts I've ever heard, it was an awful movie. You
Hmm.
because well, I'm here to pillage China, Pilgrim. Because he still sounded like himself.
Oh yeah.
My borders are gonna go from Korea all the way to Poland. but
uh,
but and there was like a scene where the doctor is telling him his diagnosis. It's like, well, can't you cut the cancer out? I'd gut you like a fish.
yeah.
So the shootist is the story of John Wayne. John Wayne's character, J.B. Books, who, John Wayne was actually dying of cancer at the time, and Daniel told me that he only had one lung while making this movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's feeling out of sorts, so he goes into town in I think Carson City was it?
Carson City. Yeah.
Yeah, Carson City, Nevada, in 1901, and he learns from Dr. Jimmy Stewart that that he has the big C and he has like maybe 2 weeks or 2 months to live.
Right.
Now, JB Books is presented as he was like as like one of the last gunfighters.
Hmm.
He'd been a lawman, but yeah, he was known far and wide for having killed 30 people over the course of his career.
Yeah. Yeah, and they showed and they had the opening narration from Ron Howard, and they were showing a bunch of clips from other John Wayne movies.
Okay, I was trying to figure out if those because the Wikipedia page didn't actually mention those. It mentioned that
Yeah,
I saw.
yeah. I looked it up on IMDb. Let me see if I can pull up the other movies that the clips that they showed in there.
Because I was thinking like he looks kind of younger in these. Like they wouldn't film like new black and white scenes just for the sake of a flashback, would they? But that seemed too odd.
Yeah. Let's see, where is that? Okay, here we go. Connections. So Okay. One of them's Red River,
Okay.
Hondo, Rio Bravo, and El Dorado.
Okay. See, I'm kind of a Western novice, so I haven't seen any of those movies, so I didn't
Uh,
recognize any of the scenes.
I'm a novice too. I recognize the titles, but I've never seen them. So yeah,
Yep. So yeah, so anyway, he comes into town, and you learn that his philosophy is, I will not be insulted. I will not be that. What was,
uh,
I'll say,
trying to
I will not
remember.
be insulted, and I will not have my hands laid upon me.
Right. Yeah,
What was there was a third thing.
I can't remember. Um,
Let's do this. Oh, that's right. I won't be wronged. I won't be insulted. I won't be I won't be laid a hand on. I don't
okay.
do these things to other people, and I require the same from them.
Mm, yep.
So that, yeah, that's his philosophy he lives by. Doesn't always seem to stick to it because he is sometimes pretty quick with the insults. Though it's usually the Bugs Bunny rule where people will wrong him first.
Right. Yeah.
So having been told that he basically has 2 months to live, he ends up renting a room from this woman, the widow Robinson.
Yeah. Played by Lauren Bacall.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she has her irresolute, drunkard, aimless son, Ron Howard,
Right.
who, listening to Ron Howard talk, I keep thinking to myself, he and Mark Hamill were basically the same person in the 70s.
Pretty much. Yeah.
They sound so similar, and they
Yeah.
functioned so similarly as just like young aimless men.
Yeah. High voice. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and the movie is like if you it's interesting in that the antagonist is really just death.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The ever looming inevitability of his of his death, and yeah, he just him trying to figure out how he wants to go out.
Like finished business, his bucket
Yes.
list, to bring up our review from earlier.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, so he meets with so the doctor Jimmy Stewart gives him a bottle of laudanum, which is back then was those old painkillers, basically opium and alcohol.
A winning combination if I ever heard one.
Yeah.
Eh, eh, um, and like he has that, and it's just like him interacting with people who, some people go, oh well, he's still got a name, so we can kill him and get famous.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, yeah, there's a scene in there where a couple of guys try to take him out in his room.
Yep, in his sleep.
Yeah.
You also have the conflict of, you have this hard living guy who, living under the same roof as this churchy, reserved woman, and
Hmm.
just like their conflicts about, his lifestyle and everything.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, she doesn't really appreciate having him around, but then she kind of warms up to him a little bit.
Yeah, but there's still that friction there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't help either that her son, Ron Howard, hero worships the guy. Yeah.
Right? Ma, he killed 30 men.
Yeah.
Like that's the greatest thing he could do.
Yeah. And he yeah, when he finds out who he is, he's just like, "Oh my god, he's in our house."
Yeah. Um, and over the course of the movie, you kind of see some people who, in a typical John Wayne movie, would have been established early on as antagonists, right? You
Mhm.
got this sharpshooting card dealer. You've got an old enemy of his from his old life. You've got just the asshole milk delivery man.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, you would have gotten a little bit of their backstory, in yeah, the earlier scenes. Yeah.
But and yeah, we are about to spoil the ending, so let's go ahead and give our if you want to see this movie, it is on Paramount Plus. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's in other places too, because movie made in 1976. It's going to be they're not going to be bidding or for streaming exclusivity or anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I would say that this is what I really liked in this movie was the dialogue, actually, like the dialogue and the performances, because like Mr. Books there very rarely says anything directly.
Right. Yeah.
The dialogue and interplay is great. We also left out another great character, the sheriff,
Oh, right.
who's
Yeah.
who was played by one of the guys from MASH.
Harry Morgan.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
he was Dragnet too.
I didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, another veteran actor,
Yeah.
and he is so slimy
Oh, yeah.
because he's just like crowing over the fact that JB Books is doomed.
Yeah.
Partially because
Yeah.
JB embarrasses him early on, but
Yeah. Yeah. And of course you've also got the reporter in town who's
oh, that
trying to
was a
make a buck off of him.
that
Yeah.
was a great scene. Uh,
Yeah.
like at first it seems like just wants to legitimately interview him, but then it's like it's clear that he's just going for the most yellow journalism possible. And, first
Uh,
we'll go through the history, then your psychology. Like, were you a born killer or were you forced into it? Like,
yeah.
were you a psychopath the whole time?
Oh, yeah.
And he gets his comeuppance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Great scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so it's like it's just John Wayne being John Wayne.
Yeah.
All I because John Wayne didn't really play a super wide variety of characters from what I've seen him in.
No, he's usually playing the same guy. But
JB might be like one of the more morally complex ones I've seen in the movies I've seen him in.
I would say so. Yeah. Um, and I remember I actually mentioned this that we were going to be talking about this movie with my parents, and my dad said this was probably John Wayne's best performance of any of his movies.
Yeah, because when you have one lung and you have the big C,
Hmm.
you're not going to be able to rely on action or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
There were a few scenes where I, especially knowing now about the one lung thing, it's like, oh, he wasn't having to act very hard that he was tired after doing that.
Oh, yeah. Or the other scenes where he's trying to catch his breath. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Also, props to Jimmy Stewart as the doctor. Like the scene where he describes the like what the prognosis actually is was kind of like he's presented as just a nice man who isn't good at delivering the bad news about people,
Yeah.
about the grim news, and the way he does it is just kind of haunting.
Yeah. And it fits Jimmy Stewart perfectly because that's who we want for a role like that. And apparently John Wayne specifically requested Jimmy Stewart for that
Hmm.
role. So
Well, good choice.
yeah.
Like everyone is well cast in this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the real quick mention, the director of the movie was Don Siegel, who directed Dirty Harry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
So to tie it to something I've seen recently.
yes.
All right, so classic movie, go watch it. I think that it's probably a rare Western where you'd enjoy it, even if you don't enjoy Westerns. Oh,
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
before we get into it, I will say, being set in 1901 was interesting because, like, they were bragging about how the town was being modernized. They were electrified. We're going to have the streetcar electric by in a year.
Yeah.
We have we have telephones.
Dry cleaning. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like a big deal in one scene about how this new dry cleaning process.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see this little slice of history where it's like very much clear that JB is like a dinosaur.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
he's sorry.
and I would say I enjoy the set dressings where like there's modern technology, but there's like a twist where it isn't as convenient.
Right. Yeah.
Like one scene at a saloon, they're turning the fans on, and there isn't like a switch on the wall. You have this long pole with two forks that you have to stick up into the mechanism and turn it on.
Yeah. Yeah, not very, yeah, like you said, not very convenient. Yeah.
So it's just very interesting to see like all these, just from like a engineering perspective, how they would go about solving some of these problems.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
All right, now that I've uh, blown a perfectly good transition, go
Mm,
see this movie. If you don't mind having this movie spoiled, stick around.
yes.
So clearly, this movie was not going to end with JB Books. Uh, oh, geez, JB, my prognosis was totally wrong. You got 3 years left. Go marry the widow Robinson and
Yeah.
and be happy.
Yeah.
That was not good. That was not in the cards. That was not this
Mm,
sort of movie.
no, no, no. Yeah, no, this wasn't going to have a real happy ending.
No.
Yeah.
Um, so the last scene in the movie, JB has basically settled all of his accounts. And
Hmm.
he's checked off his bucket list.
Yes.
And the scumbag sheriff has arranged to have a man released from prison and to just look the other way while JB and these three men occupy the same bar together at the same time, knowing like there's one guy who has a grudge for them from the old days. There's
Yeah.
the sharpshooter or the card dealer who wants
Yeah.
to get the reputational
Hmm.
bonus. I think the milk guy is just a cantankerous asshole who wanted to try to get out of prison.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Like he had the weakest motive of them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, JB goes into this bar with these three men glaring at him, and JB sits down, has a nice belt of whiskey, and then the
Yeah.
shooting starts.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, he gets one of them. He gets the milk guy first, and then I think that's right. The milk guy first,
Yeah,
and
milk
then
guy goes first. Like
milk guy.
I don't
Yeah.
think he even gets he got a couple of shots off, but they were wild, went way wide. So
Right. Yeah. And then he gets the guy from his past. Although he takes a couple of shots in the shoulder.
yeah, that there was a cool bit there where the guy was using. It looked like the guy was successfully using a table as a shield as he advanced on him.
Right. Yeah.
But when he dropped, it's like, oh, he's full of bullet holes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It turns out that tables don't stop revolver shots at close range.
No, it just goes through like paper.
Um, Although, like, I was about to credit the movie's realism, but man, the '70s blood was awful.
It was, yeah. And a little side tangent. It wasn't really until the '80s when they figured it out. It was Tom Savini figured it out. Yeah, there was another makeup guy, Dick Smith, who had his own blood formula, which is apparently the blood formula that they used, and
Hmm.
Tom Savini got it, and yeah, so now made the blood formula. But anyway, yeah,
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 like it just bright fire engine red.
yeah, yeah. Kind of looks like melted crayons. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so then the card dealer gets the closest, but he still takes a slug to the head.
Hmm.
Though by this point, without medical attention, JB is, he's gonna go.
Yeah.
Um, but then, but then the barkeep out of the blue shows up and just plugs him twice in the back with his shotgun.
Yeah, which yeah, that just came out of nowhere. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that at all.
No, I tried to like sort out what was going on, and it could be that there was an understanding with the sheriff that this was going to be done.
Hmm.
Uh, it could be that well, the card shark was one of his saloon's biggest draws, so could have been
Yeah,
avenging him.
yeah, they didn't establish why the bartender would have a barkeep would have a motive to do that, but yeah,
Or it could just be, hey, you started, a shootout started in my place. I'm ending it.
really, yeah. But then, yeah, but and of course, at that same time, that's when Ron Howard comes in and tries to warn JB about it, but it's too late. And then he gets JB's gun and guns down the barkeep.
Yep. In this really nice understated moment, um, Ron looks at the gun in his hand
Mhm.
and like because they'd had a conversation earlier in the movie that we didn't talk about in the non-spoiler
Oh,
section,
right.
where JB teaches him to shoot, and JB just says, the different, you know, Ron notices that his cluster of bullets from when they were practicing shooting wasn't much worse than uh, JB's.
Mhm.
And then JB says, it isn't about being the best shot. It's about not hesitating. It's about that being willing to kill.
Yeah,
And in that moment, while the barkeep was fumbling to reload his shotgun,
yeah,
uh, Ron didn't have that hesitation.
yeah,
But he looks at the gun and just tosses it away. And JB's last act is to nod once, like,
yeah,
and you get the impression that the encounter with JB Books really just like he'd been, he was a drunk. He was like he would drink at work. He idolized this murderer,
yeah,
or at least this manslaughterer, depending on
yeah,
how you took things.
yeah.
Because as far as you could tell, he had never like really gone on the offensive necessarily.
Hmm.
It was always in reaction to someone else's attack.
Yeah,
But like you get the impression that he'd talked earlier about never being sure what to do with himself and just sure that the right thing would come along at some point.
yeah.
And you get the impression that that moment set him straight.
Mhm.
Because like the last line that's spoken in the movie is the guy from the old days calling out that it was that was for my brother, or
Right.
that was for my
Yeah,
brother. Yeah, that was for name of brother.
yeah.
And that's just him. It was just Ron quietly, lays his coat over to cover JB, and then
Hmm.
walks out of there with his mom trailing behind, with with her silently knowing what happened.
Yeah,
And Jimmy Stewart is there looking totally distraught. And
yeah,
and the moment where I was like, if I was doing a Mystery Science Theater 3000 of this thing, earlier in the movie, when he was describing the awful death that was waiting for JB, where he would literally wake up screaming.
yeah,
He's like, were I a brave man like you, I would not choose that death.
yeah,
Um, and in that moment, the thought popped into my head. Oh, geez, JB, I was talking about offing yourself, not getting in a gunfight. Jesus.
Oh, oh no, jeez. Oh,
Oh,
oh. Yeah.
Undertaker was. We met the Undertaker of the town, who was like
Oh
a
yeah.
slimy old vulture with like
Y-
gnarled hands.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He was making out like a bandit that day.
Oh yeah. Well, Ninja liked it. uh,
But yeah, like that was it was a downbeat movie, but you felt good after watching it.
yeah.
I think it's because they tied in that bit of hopefulness in with the end,
Yeah.
uh, with Ron, with Ron's life being changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, definitely give this movie a watch. If you're, if you're able to, if you get, like we said, it's on Paramount Plus. So
Yep.
yeah.
Which again, like just oddly my favorite streaming service at this point.
Yeah, I think everything. Actually, I think all of the classic reviews have been on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, like Hulu is up there too, which I sponge off somebody,
Yeah,
but I don't know. Like I'm just better at finding things I like on Paramount. I don't know what it is.
yeah, yeah. Paramount made a lot of really great movies.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we might have had to go to.
Oh, we went to Hulu for Glengarry. That's
That's
right.
right. That's right. Because
Yeah.
that was well, I forget who made that one. It wasn't Paramount though.
No, it might have been Universal
Hmm.
or 20. No, no, I think it was 20th Century. Uh,
Yeah, maybe it was a Fox, not Searchlight. That's bothering me. One sec.
okay.
Gary Glenn Ross. Uh, it was New Line Cinema, which is
Oh,
part
okay.
of Warner Brothers
Warner Brothers. Okay.
through
That's
indirect means apparently, or something.
yeah, yeah.
It's always complicated to talk about corporate ownership, but all right,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
go watch The Shootist.
Yes.
It's dour, but it's funny in places, it's exciting in places, and it has a great payoff. As much as
Yes.
my stupid, sarcastic brain immediately wanted to ruin it.
Yeah. Yeah, and yes, I would agree. Yeah, and it's a nice fitting swan song for John Wayne.
Yep, this was his last movie. He made it 3 years past this, but I just think, you know, what else could he have done to say goodbye to the world?
Yeah. 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 Indeed. Well, I think we have